Okay, great. Thanks everyone for joining here. So, again, Altigen, if you're not familiar with us as an organization, we're a 20, 25-year-old, really PBX phone system manufacturer. We started in the mid 90s, and we really were one of the first all-in-one phone system providers. And at the time, we were like everyone else, we were manufacturing hardware and delivering chassis, 15 slot PCI chassis with analog VoIP boards. In the early days before SIP was a protocol, we had H.323 as the VoIP protocol, and we had a number of clients who were utilizing our call center software as well. Okay, and about 10 years ago, a little more maybe, we took that call center software and we started to integrate more deeply into the Microsoft stack. And maybe some of you are familiar with our Max ACD product. So with Office Communications Server R2, Link 2010, Link 2013, and then as Microsoft rebranded Link Skype for Business and eventually Teams, Altigen has been a certified contact center solution with the Microsoft stack around voice, which really kind of leads us into where Microsoft's vision is today. Our focal point today is Office 365 and Teams, and probably many of you are familiar with the fact that that Microsoft has been through this process of bringing about a better a collaborative experience in Office 365. So, for the benefit of the group, there are two products today that Microsoft still supports, and I'll speak only briefly to their roadmap and what their commitments are. So Skype is part of Skype Online, Office 365. That's fully deprecated now. So all new tenants, as you're probably aware, if you were to bring up a new tenant in Office 365, you'll see the Teams interface and onboard your folks for IM and Presence, for multi-party conferencing, and the full collaborative experience, including voice around Teams. But Microsoft in October, November of 2018, they announced a new server edition, which is Skype for Business Server 2019. So in Altigen's cloud, as we moved away from on-premises PBX platforms in complete cloud, which is Azure driven, we've got our hosted Skype for Business environment multi-tenanted. So we're recognizing and helping clients who are going to evaluate Teams or are going to consider Teams, but we are a total cloud Microsoft partner where we're helping deploy and bring to light, right, the whole Microsoft voice capabilities. So let's focus on Teams, shall we? All right. So one of the screens that you see here is, and you're probably familiar with it, is the Microsoft Teams for collaboration, for desktop applications, whether you're doing chat, whether you're creating teams within and in channels within Teams. It really is a central site for meetings, for teaming, for calls, for file sharing, for archiving of communication channels. So with that, Microsoft over the last year has been bringing about the evolution of Microsoft Teams as a phone system. And what they've done is they've really brought a lot of capabilities that you're familiar with, right? If I'm using Skype for Business, or I might have a traditional phone system like an Avaya IP Office, things like line appearances and extension-based dialing, or a lot of the capabilities that you would see in a traditional phone system, it really has become more mainstream, if you will, in terms of the feature parity with even Skype for Business on premises. So what Altigen is doing to help with folks have options into moving from a traditional phone system to Office 365 with Teams is in our cloud for Teams. We have a SIP trunk service, all right? And what we're going to drill down to a little bit later is your options for enabling PSTN dialing within Teams as a phone system. And then coupled with that is our intelligent call router. So we have an application that can do location-based dialing, data-directed routing, and advanced call routing with our intelligent call router as we front end the Teams experience. The other thing that Teams has native to it is auto attendant capabilities. You can have some basic hunt group call handling. So you certainly can use one of two ways to bring PSTN service into Teams. That's through the Microsoft calling plan, or what they refer to as direct routing. And then the second area that we bring some value to the whole Teams experience is work group, a hunt group call handling, if you will. That's a little bit more robust than what you can do natively within Teams. And then finally, we've got clients who are rolling out direct routing with Teams and utilizing Teams as a phone system, but they need more than a voice-enabled call routing, hunt group or work group capabilities. So we've added omni-channel ACD, that's automatic call distribution, including agent, supervisor, real-time statistics, integrated reporting that is not native to Teams or Skype for Business historically. So Altigen is layering in these what I'll call enterprise call routing options and capabilities, as well as the informal and formal call center, contact center capabilities. And again, this goes back to what we've been doing for years with Microsoft, with the enterprise version of Skype for Business, if you will. So again, against that backdrop of the value that we're bringing to teams, let's drill down in a little bit more. And I think this is going to add a lot of value. So today, if you were looking at keeping your current VoIP provider, and I'm going to use an example of, let's say you have 100 user Avaya IP Office on-prem. Okay, one of the two ways that you can go ahead and enable your call routing is with calling plans in Office 365 or direct routing. In Altigen's portal, when you're using Altigen SIP service, we've kind of automated the process for you to be able to manage your DID and user assignment, to provision an automated provisioning portal, if you will, that's web-based. And then in our environment in Azure, we've got a certified direct routing deployment model that recognizes Sonus or Ribbon, if you're familiar with that company. So we have in Azure deployed the Ribbon session border controllers with Altigen SIP service that'll allow you to be able to have as a configuration and deployment model where you can move all your infrastructure off-prem. You can consider using Teams as a phone system like you are with your IP office. And yet we have an integrated customer portal that provides a billing environment, integration to ticketing, and we've got the whole number porting and provisioning of DID numbers real time. So I think it's that process that really brings a lot of value to our clients. So the next slide here talks a little bit about Altigen's intelligent call routing and what I'll call our enterprise auto attendant. What we're able to deliver here then is picture, maybe a 5-person IT help desk, if you will, right? And maybe of those 100 users on your IP office, you've got, the other 90 users, let's say, that are on Teams. We can go ahead and bring in the call center capabilities. So a call comes into a work group and you want to ring all available members. You want to ring maybe by skill or distribute longest idle. And you want to do priority queuing and tagging. Maybe you're using a supervisor feature that allows you to listen in on a call, silent monitor, barge in or coach. And maybe you want some call recording. So our enterprise auto attendant and our ability to do enterprise call routing and data-directed routing allows us to have a more elaborate, if you will, auto attendant that maybe Teams in and of itself, even though it can handle some real basic functionality, we're trying to give you more of what you're used to in a traditional phone system environment. So that's whether it's routing by SIP URI, routing to a work group, and being able to do digit collection or look to a database. Let's say you're a healthcare organization and you want to route and look at your database and route to folks that are in the field, mobile team workers. We're able to take advantage of the applications that we've developed, that we've created, and we can front end these capabilities to Teams and be able to have a Teams user handle that call. All right. Next slide, if I can. I really like this slide the best, and this is the one really that I think you're going to generate a lot of questions. So what this slide kind of brings to as a visual is this. I want you all to picture the Teams on the right-hand side. That's your organization. All your users are homed in Teams today. Maybe using Skype Online or Skype for Business for IM&P and conferencing and all those capabilities, okay? On the left-hand side is the Altigen SIP environment where you have an option to be able to port, and we assist with this process, to port your numbers into the Altigen cloud, keep your phone numbers, and from here, we can go ahead and handle direct routing, inbound and outbound calling, and have all of your Teams users be on an IP phone like a Yealink, audio codes, even Polycom, where they go by Poly. So there's a number of Teams optimized devices. You can have a USB headset, but Altigen is handling the SIP, inbound, outbound dialing. And in Azure, we have this Ribbon SBC that's been set up. So as you can see down at the bottom, we show how our advanced call router, intelligent call router, is able to access customer database information and do intelligent call routing. Make sense? What I'll do then is kind of advance to the next slide. And for those of you who are wondering about devices, there are a number of devices that are native Teams phones. And then there's also what they call 3PIP phones, 3PIP. So I'll speak directly about the native Teams experience. For those of you on the call, maybe you have some experience with using, for instance, Skype for Business as a phone system. I've got a Polycom VVX 600 series phone, and I've got Better Together over Ethernet enabled on that phone. And when an inbound call comes in on Skype, I'm able to have my desktop and the phone, they work in tandem, they work together. If I click the dial on a hyperlink on a number, my handset goes off hook and I can make the call, all right? So those are traditional, what I'll call Polycom phones that have been used with Skype for Business. Those phones will interoperate with Teams. Those phones will register to the Office 365 Teams environment, and you can use those devices. You'll have basic functionality like hold, transfer, conference, and all the call controls that you're used to on the device. You'll be able to manage and use those phones equitably, okay? What the newer phones do, the native Teams phones that you're seeing here, for instance, the T56A by Yealink, and even the the C450 HD Skype for Business phone. These phones by AudioCodes and Yealink, and they ship actually with a Skype for Business profile and a Teams profile. In the Teams phone, they've embedded the Teams client interface, embedded that in the phone. So you're going to have the best immersive, experience in terms of what it looks like on the desktop if you're going to use a headset, the Teams client, and having that embedded on the phone. So I've got a law firm that we work with who really do everything by their handsets. And if you have users in your community that are really tied to the handset, then maybe consider the certified Teams devices, optimize the experience for your users, and you'll be good to go. All right. For those of you that want to look at them and you'll mix and match, know that there are legacy. Well, I say legacy. There are Skype for Business phones today. And I'll draw a distinction between Skype Online phones and if you're using enterprise Skype for Business, there are some Skype Online only phones. My recommendation is that always lead with whether you're talking about endpoints like phones or you start to get into some video devices that I'll share with you here. These devices are optimized for Teams, so I would lead with that. But know that as long as you know what the limitations are on the VVX line of phones, and as they work in tandem with the Teams client, please know that you can use the devices, but just know what those limitations are, okay? On the devices here for video conferencing, so a couple players that you're probably familiar with. Again, maybe I mentioned this earlier, Polycom and Plantronics, they've merged and they've formed Poly. So from a headset perspective, the Poly Blackwire, the Poly Alara 60, the Jabra Evolve 65T, the Jabra Speak conference room phones, Sennheiser and Yealink. All those devices are personal devices, conference room, USB endpoints that will work great with Teams. And these are Microsoft Teams devices that were first rolled out and announced at Enterprise Connect. And you can go to any of their websites and have a great preview of optimized Teams devices. On the left-hand side, where you're looking at video options. So Yealink, I'm going to point them out in particular because what I like about the MBC 800 system, if you're looking for a video conferencing room and you want a video experience, the Yealink actually comes embedded with the bridge. And so any of those other devices, though, like Lenovo or Crestron or Logitech, to include Poly, a lot of really neat devices that can be optimized for the Teams experience when you're looking for video interoperability and you want to build out your conference room experience. So please feel free to look at those manufacturers. Quick point on Polycom Teams native phones. Since their merger with Plantronics, they've announced that in January of 2020 is when you will see a Teams native device from Poly roll out. So they're a little bit slower in getting these devices rolled out, but you continue to see new devices all the time that are supportive of the Teams experience, if you will. Okay, so as we go back to the application layer, and again, what I'm focusing on here now is um, is is that you've elected to maybe go to Teams for voice, but we have an application called Max Groups, and what we're able to do in our call center environment is support what we call Hunt Group and Hunt Group routing. And again, agents where you normally license a user, where they're logging in and out of a group, they have ready and not ready time. Uh, we built out a Max Group Hunt Group solution for you that's intuitive. It's browser based from an admin perspective. It's easy to manage, and we have more options in terms of how you can route calls than compared to what's in Teams. So for instance, first available, next available, and all available options in these Hunt Groups. We've also added longest idle. So an algorithm that says, hey, let's distribute equally the number of calls based on the users logged into the group. I'll make this point because maybe some of you are familiar with this. Microsoft has announced they're in beta with what they call the voice graph APIs. So today, much like we're doing with Skype for Business and bringing to bear our omni-channel contact center, our call center capabilities that we've been doing for years, Microsoft is continuing to roll out APIs, voice APIs, that developers like Altigen as a cloud contact center provider and application provider can utilize. So again, I want you to think of us as this: the Microsoft community is very complex. And I think many of you are aware that when you look at point solutions or solutions like for voice or otherwise, in order to go and build out a solution, you got multiple solution providers or vendors that typically have to come together for a solution. So really what we're presenting at Altigen is a single partner that you can work with, single point of contact that can bring the dial tone, the cloud direct routing, allow you to do inbound and outbound dialing as an option to Teams calling plans and Office 365. And then we overlay the Hunt Group capabilities, the enterprise auto attendant. And now what I'd like to do is get a little deeper into what we call our omni-channel call processing environment. So I know we got about 8 minutes, so I'm going to be brief on this. The big takeaway here is that we're able to route any channel of call, and whether that's a voice call, a chat, SMS, it could be inbound, outbound, predictive dialer applications, as well as social. So we're able to take at the database layer, right, and at the ERP layer, we're able to get you connected to your customers. So that's really what I want you to think about, is how we can go ahead and take the whether it's call recording, web callback from queue, quality management, predictive dialer, historical and real-time reporting, as well as social, SMS, web chat, and email and fax. We can bring all of this now to your environment and have Teams be the call control, if you will. And to the extent that we can maximize your Microsoft experience and have everything all part of your Microsoft Teams environment, where you're doing IM, chat, you're handling your meetings. Think of your voice now capabilities being able to brought into the Altigen cloud. Okay. Let me advance to a couple of slides here just as a visual. So again, when you're thinking about customizable desktop clients and views, just know that we can support whether it's voice inbound calls, historical calls, or email or chat. We have an admin, supervisor, and agent console that's highly customizable, right? It allows you to bring any view that you would like into the environment. And on top of that, we can go ahead and bring call recording with screen sync, agent scoring, workforce management, and quality management into that omni-channel contact center kind of environment. So again, many of you on the call have some more basic needs from a phone system perspective. Know that we can meet those today and give you options in terms of how you might be able to approach moving from a traditional phone system. As you look to move everything off premises, know that we can go ahead and help bring these other values into your environment. Okay. So again, I know I went through a couple of these slides kind of quickly, but I guess really what it really comes down to, and I do like this slide, is at the center of the universe is really that Microsoft Office 365 environment. Whether you're using Teams today and just starting to use Teams, and trialing that, where you're using Skype for Business historically for IM and chat and meetings, know that both can coexist, and know that we as an organization, talking about Altigen, can help you maximize your Microsoft Voice or Microsoft Unified Communications experience. And we bring professional services to bear, whether you want to do some custom call and workflow routing, whether we're talking about database integrations and custom communications and applications, know that we can help support that as well. Let's do this. Here's what I like to do. Let me maybe just leave for about a minute here. Let me give you an example of a client that I worked with recently. I've worked with a client that had about 100 users, maybe a little bit less. They public utility. They had about 80–90% of their calls come into a interactive voice response, self-service IVR environment where you can check your balance, where you can do all kinds of transactions, move funds from here to there. And then when they want to speak to a rep, they zeroed out and they went to a ShoreTel user on a phone system. In this particular case, the client's goal was to move to Teams and Office 365. They wanted to leverage their investment in E1 or E3 or E5. And in the case of E1 and E3, they would have to add on the PBX, the phone system add-on. If you have E5 licenses, then you already own the phone system capabilities in Office 365. And we were there to help the client be able to support their call handling needs with with some omni-channel and even voice routing around the call center. And then all their users were embedded and using Teams with our direct routing. So all their DIDs, we helped them port their DIDs to our cloud. And all the teams are going to log in with their AD credentials around Teams. And for them, they have a lot of users that still want to use handsets. So they had a mix of users that are going to use a traditional handset, and that's how they prefer to work. You got other users that want a USB headset using the Teams client. So in that case, they were able to maximize their user experience, and it was pretty rewarding for them. So we thank you for your time today, and hope you have a great day. Thanks, everyone.